All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for a few real people out there, just like you right there, just like me right here. So, is there a feud, a new sort of revitalized feud between Neal, Schon, and Steve Perry? I'm just, this is what I do. This is what this channel happens to be about most of the time. It's a lot of journey content, and I apologize for that. I know people have criticized and they've said, you should really cover some other topics on the channel. The problem is sometimes I do that and nobody watches the channel. So I need people to watch. Plus, I think this is a legitimate question these days, and I'll elaborate a little bit, and then you can go to your chat rooms and complain about me and all that fun stuff. Before I send you off to your assignment, here is Voyage and Inception. Of course, you have to watch the video also before you leave. In fact, if you're a Journey fan, this is mandatory listening, okay? You want to do some research? You want to find out how to sound like Steve Perry without being Steve Perry? I mean, this is, again, my album of last year, and it could be my album again of 2024. Hey, it's kind of like my version of Thriller, right? It dominates, 83, 84, or whatever. It's just so big that it sticks around. And for me, Voyage is that good of an album. Although I've been listening to some other things, courtesy of Pride and Joy Music, and fantastic stuff. So I will elaborate on those because I do have some new stuff that has arrived and is now part of my collection. And so I will be sharing it with you all. Now, some bullet points about things that have been happening lately. Yesterday, we heard that Steve Perry is going to a new record label, which is interesting. People who like to speculate have said to me, hey, what went wrong with the other record label? It's funny. When Perry announced that Traces was coming out, and I looked into who was handling the distribution and who was doing the promotions and everything, I said, Steve Perry deserves to be on a bigger record label. And I'm not sure why CBS didn't just say, you know what, we've got this guy's stuff already. Let's just continue our partnership, our relationship with Steve Perry. He's been remastering all of the old Journey stuff, and he did a fine job. And he's continuing to work on that stuff, as far as I know. And the other guys in Journey seem to be okay with him doing that. So it would have been a great partnership to keep his relationship with CBS or Columbia, whatever you want to call them, Sony Music at one point. People basically over time end up, changing the name. Like what is it? Like Xfinity used to be Comcast or something like that. So, you have to kind of keep up with a corporation as their name changes. So Perry announces a new record deal. His Journey remake with Trev Lukather ends up being kind of a nothing burger. And Neal Schon weighed in on that, and he said, with all the hype, I was expecting to hear more of Steve. And then we learned that Steve was in the room when they were mixing that remake of a Journey classic song from the Raised on Radio album. He was there overseeing the entire process. And Trev Lukather apparently said, hey, you should think of coming back, like really jumping back in. Now, Uncle Steve says things like, I've got aches and pains, and I'm no spring chicken anymore, but yet I'm thinking about going out and touring, right? So Journey, who is very active these days, is currently overseas touring through Europe and other places, from what I understand. I haven't kept up with all the tour dates, but they're currently doing a difficult thing. Bands like Journey typically don't go and do tours overseas anymore. They typically stay in the United States or maybe go to Canada. And that's kind of it. But there is a huge demand over there to see Journey. And, you know, you strike while the iron is still hot. And this is technically another leg of their Freedom Tour. And so good for them. So they're busy. And Steve Perry, I think he tends to get busy when Journey is busy. That's what he's done over the last few years. He likes to keep his name out there, and he tends to use Journey as a springboard. And then Journey at times has used Steve Perry as a springboard. They did that back when Traces came out. There are some unresolved issues that make me believe that there's something else going on between Neal Schon and Steve Perry. And maybe to a small extent, maybe Jonathan Cain is involved, but it's technically between Schon and Perry, because Schon was, firing both barrels at Jonathan Cain for a couple of years. They reconciled. First, they realized, hey, this is our corporation. Let's protect the brand, which they did. And then, the wives got together, Neal's wife and John's wife, and they started managing the business, which is Journey. And I didn't see that on my bingo card whatsoever. I'm like, really? The two wives who apparently don't like each other, maybe they figured out they're more alike than different, which to me makes total sense, right? If you followed this. So they put their talents together and it's harmony between John and Neal. So who's left to go after? Well, it's Steve Perry, right? Steve Perry is out there and there's a lot of hype every time Steve does something. And my guess is that Neal doesn't really appreciate that, because it does take away from the current version of Journey, because everybody starts to think about, oh, it would be great if Perry came back and was, the lead singer for Journey again, even though I don't think he can manage that catalog, even the way they play the songs now, which isn't always in the original key. I'll just put it out there, and I think people already know that. But I think they'd have to do some even more drastic measures to allow Perry to be able to sing those songs at his current level, which isn't bad. If you've listened to Perry and if you listen to Traces, some people really love the way Perry sounds right now. And other people, of course, are, just reminiscing, going back in time and thinking it's 1982. And it's not going to be 1982 again, unfortunately. That's why I like this a lot, right? Because it brings me back to the Street Talk era and the Raised on Radio era. This is right in the midst of that. So again, just a little plug for my friend Hugo, who doesn't have a sweetheart deal with a former band that he left, right? He doesn't have a sweetheart deal where he's raking in money while they're out on the road, which again is pretty smart and pretty shrewd of Steve Perry. And I didn't read this anywhere, but a patron said to me that Neal Schon, somewhere on social media, was talking about how Steve Perry didn't deserve any more money from the negotiation that happened back in 1998. That Schon thought maybe it was time for Perry not to be able to, earn a living on Journey's touring revenue, which, is pretty good. Let's just be honest. And that's why Perry thanked his lawyer when he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with his former bandmates. So with all of this stuff out there, right? And it's even more complicated. Jonathan Cain's daughter is married to Trev Lukather, who apparently encouraged Steve to get back into the game. So everybody's kind of walking on eggshells. You don't want to say anything bad about Uncle Steve. I think Jonathan Cain said that Steve Perry sounded like $1 million. I did a video about that. I think he sounded good, but it was hard to hear him. That was really the problem. Steve Perry has also said that he doesn't really want to have a relationship with Neal Schon because he thinks Neal just wants to work with him and he doesn't really want to be his friend. He's only trying to be his friend so he can work with Steve again. And so a lot of things are unresolved. And, I always say, look, these guys should just work stuff out, right? They should just stop the arguing. It's not worth it. And they could probably make a lot of money if they all did get back together with Steve and maybe they unplugged, maybe they did acoustic journey, maybe they rearrange these songs, maybe they hire a full orchestra. There are ways to make this bigger than anything else the band has ever done. And imagine the ticket sales. But again, my hunch is that, yeah, Perry would probably go out on tour. He would probably still do it, but it would be very limited. It would be an intimate evening with Steve Perry, meaning that it would be a small venue. And he would probably do a few Journey songs and maybe a whole bunch of solo Steve Perry material. I think it would be pretty heavy on the Steve solo stuff and just light to moderate on the Journey stuff. It's hard if you're Steve Perry, though, to go out there by yourself as Steve Perry and not sing Don't Stop Believin', right? I think that's almost impossible for him to get away from. So why else do I think there's a feud? Well, here's the last one, and it's a big one. The version of events during the supposed coup attempt where Neal Schon claims that Steve Perry was in on this coup. He claims that Steve Perry was on a conference call, and Perry has denied his involvement in the coup when they were deciding, hey, let's just take this thing over, right? We can wrestle control away from Neal, and it can still be Journey. And they were even thinking of bringing in Neal Schon's son, Miles, to play guitar. That's what I had heard. And that rumor bounced around for a while, and it's still out there. I think they put everything to rest when they settled with Valerie and Smith. And then Perry came along and said, no, I wasn't involved in that. But what's the truth? Was he on the call? And did they try to bring Steve in? And why would Neal Schon make up a story? I don't think Neal Schon was making up a story there. I think he was genuinely worried that he was going to lose his band. And so I think that's another underlying, call it, tension between Perry and Schon that hasn't been resolved. And there's always going to be this competition when it comes to who gets into the news cycle more. I think Journey has managed to stay relevant because, again, Don't Stop Believin', most played song, and who's out there playing that song live? Well, Journey is, and some people like these guys, they're out there playing it too, and they do a nice job with it. And there are a ton of great Journey tribute bands out there that continue to make audiences very happy while not charging them a fortune. So that's a good thing too. But as far as the feud between Neal Schon and Steve Perry, it's not going to be a rough and tumble thing. It's going to be a jab here, a jab there. And I don't know if these guys, really like each other at this stage. Maybe things would be different if Steve Perry had decided to sit down and have that coffee with Neal Schon. And Neal, of course, would have probably said, hey, can we work together? And Perry would have said, no, but thanks for the coffee. And then that would have been the end of it, I think. But because, again, just like 1987, just like 1998, there's no closure. It just, I'm out of here. And then people wonder, why are you out of here again? Does he just not like these guys? Does he just, between John and Neal, is it this relationship thing where personalities are just so different that Perry can't stand to be in the same room with these guys. I heard during the whole shoot for When You Love a Woman that Perry was, just not in good shape. I think physically he was in tough shape and he was staying away from people, from what I understand. And they were lucky to get him to even shoot that video. And that was really the last time he ever worked with his former bandmates. And to me, that's just really sad. It would be cool before it's too late. I mean, people are already too old, to be honest. This would have been good like 10 years ago, right? But before it's really too late, right? Everybody is still above ground. I would say let's do something and just do it for the love of strange medicine, right? Or do it for the love of big money, something like that. And I think Steve Perry, at this stage of his life, he still wants control. This is about control. And he's still moving the pieces on the board. And I think that really bothers Neal Schon. I can sense it. So anyway, just those are my own personal observations of the situation. Is there a feud between Neal Schon and Steve Perry? I think there is. I think it's kind of a stealth underground thing. It's not right out there in the open, but it could just blow up. One of these guys could say something crazy, and there would be a lot of news coverage, which both of them benefit from. But the fans who just want these guys to get along, I don't know. I think some of us will just check out and say, you know what? We were hoping for better, but here's another band that just can't get their act together. And not that they were ever going to get back together, but just get along. And, let Steve show up at a concert. Steve, show up at a concert and sing a song or two. Sing for your supper. Sing for that great deal that you made in 1998. But I think that's really one of the linchpins to this relationship, and the fact that maybe something else is going on that we just don't know about. I think that's always a possibility. And, I keep my ear to the ground to find out if there is something out there. People have great theories, but nothing you can prove. And, being this involved with Journey at this stage and Steve Perry is maybe a little bit too much. It's a little overkill. And I, sometimes I get tired of this myself. People are very much into the drama, and they'll send me stuff. Did you hear about this? Did you see Steve said this? Did you see Steve went for a walk today? And I'm like, okay. People love Steve Perry. And as far as, the fan base, there's a certain part of that fan base that, Steve Perry is about as good as anything in the world to them, just anything. And there are some people that don't like Neal. They don't like his wife, or they don't like John, and they don't like his wife. So that doesn't help the situation. But I've moved on from that. I don't look at those people anymore as a negative. They got their act together, and they're all working in tandem to try to make Journey a well-oiled machine, which I think they are at this stage. And it's good. Overall, it's not maybe good for the whole drama aspect of talking about this, but it's still good that Journey is getting along. So we'll see if Steve says anything, or if Neal says anything. I think that could be, throwing some gasoline on the fire. But for now, these are just two guys, I think, that don't have a lot of affection for one another. Let's hope that, they both stay healthy, so someday they can finally just bury the hatchet and be friends again. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but I'm hoping that it does. I'm hoping for a happy ending with Journey. All right, Voyage, and then I'm out of here. This video was way too long, and it's not my most exciting work. This is Inception, and you should check this out. If you want to hear what Journey would sound like in the year 2024, this is it. This is it. And no offense to Freedom. That was a decent album for sure. But man, Inception by Voyage, that just keeps the whole Steve Perry vibe alive. I'm Dave. Thanks for watching. God bless everyone, and I will see you soon.